All right, now you're seeing things here because we are live on Sportswire Radio, and you're not seeing things because I was just here a few minutes ago, but I'm back here for a little while. Want to talk about a couple different things here in the world of sports. Obviously, we're marching a little closer toward the Super Bowl. Who's going to come out of both conferences? Maybe spend a few minutes when it comes to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Not much of a surprise, but I'll still ask some of these guys their thoughts on it. Well, we'll talk about the NFL here first. I'm joined by TBK. Baltimore Ravens did not advance in the second round of the divisional round. We'll talk about that. We got the host of the Liftoff Jets and the New York MLB Talk, Chris Pizzaia. He's wearing a Philadelphia Eagles shirt. Yes, he's a Jets fan and an Eagles fan, but he'll tell us, I'm sure, a little bit about it. But he has also got a Liftoff Jets show we'll play later this weekend. And I'm also joined here by the contest man, the Grim Reaper of Sportswire Radio, Rob Maraska here, who is got a different view. But also Rob and Chris interviewed New York Mets, I guess you could say Mets legend, or I guess swing man, right? Swing pitcher, Ed Lynch. Ed Lynch pitched for the Mets, probably more known as the general manager of the Chicago Cubs throughout most of the 1990s. But fellas, happy Friday, and how we all doing tonight?
How you doing?
Doing good.
I'm doing great. Obviously, some different things to talk about. World of the NFL, got some stuff in baseball. I'll definitely get into that. And I guess I'll go with football first. Obviously, we have the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And in the NFC, it's the Washington Commanders. Maybe we want to go there first. The Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Boy, who this year had the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game? Anybody here? Anybody know anybody that had the Commanders here? Yeah.
Maybe
yeah,
maybe not the NFC Championship, but I've been saying look after Jaden Daniels, man, and he proved it. Like this year is storybook. It's storybook at this point for the Commanders. Rookie QB makes it through the playoffs. You're one game away from the big dance, doing something that a rookie QB has not done since who? Anyone know? Because I don't.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Marino was his first year as a full-time starter. He made it, but
Tom Brady's first full year was also he won the Super Bowl. His first full year. Right, 2001. He's in the league 2000.
Yeah,
but it's far and few between, right? That have been quarterbacks that have been into the Super Bowl. Their first.
It's probably the best rookie season we've ever seen for a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was great under pressure. Remember last week we talked about how is he going to perform under pressure? He didn't look like he was under pressure to me.
No,
no, not at all.
Nope.
Let me ask you guys a question, though. I want to talk about the Lions for a second in a different way. I see Aaron Glenn's the new head coach of the Jets, but everybody talked about the Lions, and they get an early exit here, relatively speaking, for a 15-win team. All these coaches that are getting ballyhooed from the Detroit Lions, Campbell himself and most of his staff, we overestimate them, or, is it more of an indicative on the overestimation of the Detroit Lions, or the Washington Commanders really that good of a football team?
You know what? You got to give Washington their credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
great. So I'm not taking anything away from them. So they deserve everything they're getting right now.
Yep.
Detroit, we got to remember, Detroit has been killed by injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, they're missing 11 guys at one point, right? In the season was 11, 12 guys they were down.
Yeah.
I think they had 30 guys on their IR at one point in the season. So, you know what? It is what it is. But they also turned the ball over, 5 times, I think, in that game? Goff had, 3 picks and a fumble. So, yeah, you could look at those things. But you also got to give Washington, the credit as well for forcing those turnovers. So, Detroit, played horribly. You could say they did get outcoached a little bit as well. And again, give Washington the credit that they deserved for that win. To go into Detroit, one of the tougher places to play the last couple of seasons, right?
Yep.
So, but on the flip side, the Lions did have tons of injuries. not saying that's an excuse because everybody's dealing with something at this point of the season. Every team has got an injury or guys are banged up.
But you see all these Lions coaches as candidates for jobs. Glenn gets the job, but what should I hire somebody who has a performance at least on the defensive side of the ball, right? And Aaron Glenn, I mean, not to go down that road just yet. I know Angela's here. I'll get to some of her comments. Thank you, Angela. I see Joe Dell here, but just what's your thoughts on that?
I think with Glenn, at least with Glenn, for me, looking at his career, right? 12, 13 years as a cornerback in the league, as a top cornerback for a while, and then going through the ranks as a coach on every level. He was there, right? And you got to remember, he played under Parcells. He played under Sean Payton. He coached under Sean Payton as well. So you're learning from two of the greatest head coaches of all time. So he's gotten great tutoring from those guys, working through the ranks, from a scout all the way up to DC and now head coach. And he's a great leader of men. I mean, for his sake, I know more of his history than Johnson. Johnson, I don't know much before he became OC of the.
No, but I just think the Commanders score. I mean, they scored it well, and I'm not trying to take away from the Commanders. I'm not trying to take away from them, but I'm just. Aaron Glenn gets a coaching job, and look at how the Washington Commanders played. I'm not saying that Aaron Glenn wasn't going to get a job. He's been a candidate for a couple of years.
Right.
I mean, I just think it's just fascinating in a sense that the Lions basically, they hit the bed, and all these coaches are premier candidates, and
Well, for one game, I mean, if you're going by one game for the guy, that doesn't look good. But you got to look at his whole body of work, his whole career of work as a coach, as a player, right? I think you got to look at the whole picture with him. The guy you could make a little bit more is Johnson, because like I said, I don't know much of his history before being the OC as Detroit, right? I mean, and he did a great job with Detroit. I mean, that offense is amazing. But then again, look at who they got on offense as well.
Goff didn't have an interception for what at one point, like 200 pass attempts or something like that. He had a long.
And that's a great offense. I mean, top to bottom, one of the better offensive lines in the league. You got a great receiver, a couple of great receivers on that team. You got a great tight end. You got probably one of the best running back duos in the league as well. So you got a great running game. And then you got Goff, who's already been to a Super Bowl. Maybe he's not, a top 5 quarterback, but he's a pretty good quarterback. I would say top 10, So.
All right. So we'll come back to that. I know we'll get to some comments. I got a bunch of them. So the Washington Commanders, I mean, this team, Jaden Daniels, I mean, unbelievable run, right? Coach comes in here. They were last year the reverse of this year, and they go in and they spank the Detroit Lions. They pretty much spanked them. I know there's a bunch of comments. I'm going to get to them, but does the Washington Commanders, can they continue this Cinderella run and go into Philadelphia this weekend or what?
They did it once with Detroit. Who's to say they can't do it again?
I don't know about that with Philadelphia, though. I really don't know. Going into Philly, that's going to be crazy. We know how it is in Philly. So I don't know. This might be the one time against Detroit, but I mean, it's not impossible, but it's going to be tougher, I think, going into Philly right now. Philly is just, it's crazy.
I think Washington showed last week that it's very possible that they could go into Philly and beat them. So
Philadelphia had their own struggles with the Rams. They had the game comfortably in hand and in the snow, and the Rams almost find a way to. What a story that would have been, right? The Rams and the championship with everything going on and praying for those people in California. Our friend Anastasia Resenia is dealing with that, and terrible.
I don't know. I still think Philly's going to win, but you never know. I mean. They proved it last week. They could go into Philly and win. Yes,
absolutely. And they just beat them like 2 months ago, right? But it was in Washington. That was kind of a messy game too, with a lot of turnovers. So, listen, it is possible. Jalen Hurts is not 100% now. He hurt his knee in the game against the Rams. Weather's not going to be a factor. It's supposed to be like 30, 40 degrees. So No
Well,
snow.
considering what it's been this week, that's going to feel like summer. I mean, this
so
whole
I
week
don't think
has
weather's
been.
going to play a part this game. So I think that'll help the Eagles at least on defense, right? Because when it snows and everything else, I think the offense has a little bit more of an advantage because you don't know where the offense is going, right, on defense. So I think it's a little bit harder to run in the snow when you don't know where you're going. Like it's easy for the offensive guy to be like, all right, I'm making a cut here.
And Sunday's as good of conditions you're gonna get in the end of January. I got a bunch of comments from Angela. Let me get to them first, and we'll talk about it in these games. I'm gonna go to the Bills comment last, but she said let's go with the Lions. Her second comment, which I'll put up on the screen here in a minute. Lions lost due to so many mistakes they made, and they never adjusted to the Commanders' explosive plays. Defense was non-existent. Anything you want to add on that, gentlemen? Anything you disagree with? Agree? You want to poke a hole into that now?
She's right. Nah, the defense was busted up. Golf completely imploded. And at the worst time. And like I said, I mean, it's like that for any team right now in the playoffs. It's that team that makes the costly mistake is the one that's going down. You've seen it pretty much with every one of these games so far. I think you've seen it with some of the bigger name quarterbacks too. Obviously, Jared Goff pretty much picture perfect all the way through the regular season, implodes in the playoffs. Yeah. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a few minutes.
We will.
I'm just comments on that.
And look, the only thing I'm going to say about Jalen Hurts is, as good as a player he has been known to make costly mistakes. And if you rattle him, I don't know. I think the momentum that Washington has right now with a rookie quarterback who's playing like the kid's been in the league for years, he is about as cool, calm, and collected as you can be in the situation that he's in right now. They're dangerous. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think sometimes, when you see this in sports, you're playing with house money. You got no pressure. Yeah. You're there. You're expected to do nothing. This is a franchise that's the first time they're in a championship game since 1991. First time they win 2 playoff games since 91. Dan Quinn's obviously a guy that's been here, but nobody expected this season. Jaden Daniels, again, nobody expected this. So they're dangerous. They're playing with total house money. And, we were talking about this a few minutes ago, and in quarterbacks in history, league history, in their first year who've done this. I mean, I guess you brought up Chris Marino first year. All right, Dan Marino first year. Had, first full year, they go to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, right, gets the job done, right, the first full year in the league. He's not the quarterback in 2000, but he gets his first season second in the league. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't play this well first year in the league. I mean, there's very few quarterbacks you could think of that have this kind of success. Maybe Roethlisberger, right? Roethlisberger, maybe.
Yeah.
As a rookie comes to mind. He was the one with Steelers were like 14-2 or 15-1 maybe that year, and they go to the AFC Championship game. Maybe he's the one, but again, completely different quarterback. Can't compare in terms of what the numbers are. So they're playing with house money, and that's what makes them dangerous.
And you know what? You could add to this too is this is the third time they're facing each other this year, obviously, right?
Yep.
So nobody's surprising each other.
Talked about this a couple years ago with the 49ers and Rams. Remember, 49ers and Rams were in the championship game, and the hardest thing to do was to beat somebody back-to-back, and the 49ers had beat the Rams late in the year, get into the playoffs, win a couple of games to get into the postseason, and then they square off in the NFC Championship game, and the Rams find a way to win. So it's very tough in sports to beat somebody back-to-back, or in the 49ers-Rams case, it was, I think, 3 times that year. But, the third time, it's the rubber match. I mean, that's
I don't. There's neither team really has that much of an advantage over each other right now because this is gonna be the third time they're facing each other. They just faced each other about a month or so ago.
Yep.
At the end of the season. So
I think week 16 was it right? Was it week 16? I think.
I think this is going to be a really good match. I mean, trust me, the Eagles are not taking Washington lightly.
Oh, it's a rivalry game. Listen, if these teams are, if one team's 4-12, the other one's 12-4, it doesn't matter. And listen, last year Washington was the first team to knock off Philadelphia. Remember when Philadelphia was undefeated last year, and they knocked them off. So I mean, that's some good points
this year too. They won, I think, 14 straight or 13 straight, and then they went to Washington, and then they lost that game. So they're definitely not looking past them. This is for a trip to the Super Bowl. So there's no looking ahead. There's no like, oh, next week we got Dallas, or next week we got this team. So I think it's going to be a matter of, coaching. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is a rookie, but he's definitely not playing like one.
Nope.
And I think it's going to be a great matchup. Here's the thing: the Redskins have one of the worst rush defenses in the league. I think they're like 30th. Yeah. They ranked 30th.
You say Redskins?
I'm sorry, Washington.
Angela said that because Angela, I know why she's doing that, but I got a bunch of comments. Let me run through some of her comments, and thank you for sharing it on X. On X, people don't see the X, but there's actually like a lot of people who watch on X as well. So, although some people call it Twitter, people want to go to Blue Sky, whatever it is. I'll get to Anthony Steele. I'll get to his comments. But let me get to Angela, because Angela is not here often. So let me get to, she says this. One more thing, Eagles are a tough team to beat, but she thinks that they have the advantage.
Well, I mean, they're home. I think, listen, they're the better team on paper. So there's no denying that. Yeah. So, I think they have the advantage in that sense. But listen.
Is there an advantage when you're in the championship game? Is there an advantage? I mean, you're good, right? You got there.
Home field, but that's about it.
Yeah, they got the home field. This is the third time they're playing each other, so they don't really have an advantage in that way. But from a roster point of view, I mean, no team's got a better roster than the Eagles do in the playoffs right now. Out of the 4 teams, the Eagles have the best roster. So
all right.
True. So I mean, if you're looking at it that way, that's probably their only advantage. Coaching wise, maybe the Eagles have an advantage there too.
But Dan Quinn's been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but the Eagles have been there too. So there's really no advantage, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'll come back to other comments. The Eagles are unmatched in defense and in blitzing. It's going to be tough for Washington's rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, to handle, but he's looked pretty good so far. And look at what he did in Tampa. Look at what he did in Detroit. Though granted, they're two total different defenses, but I mean, he's looked pretty good so far. I mean, what do you think of what Angie's got to say on that?
He's just not playing like a rookie QB, man. He's so poised. He's so comfortable to be there. And you know what? I've seen people say, well, it's because he's never been there before. It's like, yeah, but he is there. So, and he didn't get
at LSU. It's not like this kid went to Montana State or something.
Right. For sure.
1,000 people or whatever. So
he's just so focused. It's unbelievable for a rookie.
There is a difference between Detroit's defense. I know it's on the road either way, but there's a big difference between Detroit's defense and Philly's defense. Philly's like the number 1 ranked defense.
Yeah.
Detroit, we've seen, and we talked about already, they were, completely demolished by their injuries. So a lot of their best players were out. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a difference. I'm not saying Jaden Daniels is not going to be able to do it against Philly, but it's a lot tougher, challenge for him to go into Philly against that number 1 ranked defense that play Detroit.
Yeah, all right, you know what? Go ahead, Joe. You want to say something? Go ahead, jump in.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I mean, it could be this game, Super Bowl notwithstanding. This game could be a tell-all for him. Is can he handle a defense at its very best? So we'll see.
All right, let me get to, I'm going to hold off on her predictions. I know she's waiting. Let me run to a couple comments. Joe Dell is here. Thank you, Joe. Joe is here. Joe, I know, is doing something for the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame. Joe is 3 for 4 in the playoffs. He meant 3 for 4 in last week's games. He thought the Lions were going to win. Well, they didn't. Anthony Steele would like to say the Bills and Washington in the Super Bowl. Well, we're going to get to that next. He thinks the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. Well, we're going to find out. Josh Allen for MVP. Well, we'll have to find out. Thank you, Zilla, for tuning in. But all right, so you know what then? So I guess let me take these off the screen. We'll come back. I see people want to predict the games, but so Washington and Philadelphia for you guys. You guys like Washington, the Cinderella story, or Philadelphia gets to its second Super Bowl in 3 years? Kind of interesting there, right? One story is this total Cinderella, and you got Philadelphia, which would like to go into the Super Bowl for a second time in 3 years.
I think it's. Go ahead, Rob.
Like I said before, I think it's going to be Philadelphia. That's my prediction. I just think it's going to be Philadelphia.
I was just going to say I agree with Chris. I think it's players versus momentum at this time. Like Philadelphia most definitely does have the players. I mean, you got an MVP caliber running back in Saquon. Jalen, when he's hot, he's hot. But like I said, right now the momentum is crazy in Washington's favor. It is a toss up for me. I can't call it.
All right. I mean,
I'm definitely not going to go against the Eagles, right?
We're wearing the Eagles shirt. I mean,
right.
Even if I wasn't a fan, I think I would still go with Philly. Close game, without a doubt. I don't see a blowout by any chance. I see a close game, but I think Philly pulls it out. High scoring, maybe 27-24 or something like that. But I'll go with Philly as well.
But there was an interesting thing. I think TBK said it: momentum versus players. And I always go back. And I know Angela's listening to this, and she'll probably appreciate this. And I always go back to in politics when sometimes there's a wave. A wave, they always say, will carry the particular candidate, even if they're not the strongest. Sometimes the wave will carry them in, and Washington might be the team. They may not be the strongest on paper of the four teams. They're probably the least likely of the four teams to be here, but they've got momentum. Go back to the Giants, right? The Giants 2 Super Bowl wins. It was about basically getting hot at the right time. You see it just all the time in sports. You see sometimes that momentum and that wave might carry you, and Washington might be a team of destiny. How about Dan Quinn trying to rectify what happened all those years ago with the Falcons? A franchise here in Washington that's changed names. It had just a lot of controversy. It's had no stability. I mean, think about how many head coaches they've had since Joe Gibbs. I mean, probably a laundry list of them. Marty Schottenheimer was here a year, and Mike Shanahan didn't work out. Ron Rivera was here and didn't really work out. I mean, it's a long list of coaches that have been here. Norv Turner, who can forget those years? I mean, a long list of coaches, and it's for a franchise that may finally have stumbled into momentum. And then you've got Philadelphia, which could have an opportunity to rectify last year's collapse. But if you're going to buy into anything, sometimes momentum carries teams. You see it just all the time. So I definitely want to say that we'll have to find out. Angela liked the point about momentum, so I figured she would. So let's go over then to the other conference. Obviously, Baltimore and Buffalo. Certainly, that was your toss-up game. Although really the Eagles and Rams turned into that. I'll get to Kansas City last. It was a typical Chiefs game. I mean, it was, although if you were betting for the game, you would have probably been really upset because of the goofy safety. But
yeah,
you guys want to talk Ravens Bills? I'll go to TBK first to give him a few minutes and talk about Baltimore and Buffalo. Go from there.
Well, as you can see, for those that are watching on YouTube and X and all that, the purple lights are gone for the season, replaced by the red and blue. I let my big secret out of the bag last time we were on. Yes, I am also a Buffalo Bills fan. Like I said, my dad grew up in Utica, New York.
Yep, I know Utica very well. Yep.
He was a Bills fan before the Ravens got established in '96. I was born in '92, so Bills fan for a very short time, but still, nevertheless, followed them before I was able to appreciate the game fully and became a Ravens fan. That all out of the way, man. Once again, we beat ourselves. I don't think that the Bills dominated us in any form or fashion. I think Lamar had a Lamar moment. He, again, super stellar through the regular season, and a costly pickoff, a costly fumble, and we just lost it after that. Couldn't get it back. We came really close with the 2-point conversion. Obviously, we all saw what happened. And hey, real quick on a very, very serious note here. I put up a post about it on Facebook. As a diehard Ravens fan, I was very, very, very disappointed with the fact to find out that both Mark Andrews and his significant other were receiving death threats over him dropping a ball in a freaking game. That is something I will not support. I cannot get behind. It's a game at the end of the day. It was a costly mistake, but this is a man we're talking about. This is a human being. And that far exceeds the game that he plays. That was very disheartening. Anyway, moving on to the Buffalo Bills. I have yet a second crack at the apple, just like Chris, being a Jets and an Eagles fan. I'm a Ravens Bills fan. To either be happy or be disappointed this year. I don't know if you can call what the Bills have as momentum right now, because like I said, I don't feel like they dominated us. They got the win, and now they're back to see Mahomes once again. And usually 99.9% of the time, we know how that turns out. So I would love nothing more to see the Bills back in the Super Bowl after, what is it, like 31 years? I believe.
Well, ironically, the Washington Commanders, I know Angela wants everybody to say the Redskins, but they are the Washington Commanders. But the last time the Washington Commanders were in the Super Bowl as the Washington Redskins, they played the Buffalo Bills. So I'm just saying that there's some irony in that the last time they were in a Super Bowl, it was against the Buffalo Bills. So just throwing that out there.
TBK, I'm going to say this right now.
Sure.
I'm not putting the game on Lamar Jackson, and I'm not putting the game on Andrews either with his two turnovers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not turnovers, the one fumble, and then he, of course, dropped the 2-point conversion. I'm putting it more on the coaching, right? Todd Monken. For me, that's a game in the cold, in the snow, in the wind, in Buffalo, middle of January. That's the game you guys signed Derrick Henry exactly for.
Yes,
to
sir.
Carry the ball. And how many carries did he have? 16.
16.
There's no way. That should have been at halftime 16 carries. That guy should have had 30 carries by the end of the game.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a guy you'd say, here you go. Carry us to Kansas City. And you know what? When they stop him, and they wouldn't have, but when they do eventually stop him, then you give the ball to Lamar Jackson and say, okay, now you do your magic.
Yep.
But, I mean, from the point of that game starting to the game until it ended, it should have been Derrick Henry getting the ball, mauling these guys down. You're not stopping.
So you think there was something that maybe coaching saw that they didn't want to go that route? I mean, the Ravens had the lead early.
He had 5 yards a carry. It's not like they were stopping it. So I don't know why they didn't run the ball more.
I don't know. I don't know what the rationale is, and Chris is absolutely not wrong. He's not wrong at all. When Harbaugh goes on a press conference and says, we brought Derrick Henry here for the December-January games, and then you don't use him, I don't know what to say. Like, it's like
I didn't watch any of the press conferences. Did you? I don't know.
The excuse is always, we trust our players, we have faith in our guys, things just didn't go right. It's like, no. You didn't call it right, and we lost.
I mean, it's unfortunately the game's not in their building. I mean, weather is a condition, and
was it Monken's ego? Like, let me kind of paint the picture, right? If Derrick Henry carries the ball 30-something times, gains 180 yards, and the Ravens win 21-17, right? The talk is going to be Derrick Henry carried the Ravens to the championship game in Kansas City, right?
And he was the difference maker. We brought him in.
Yes.
That was what we didn't have last year when we came up short against Kansas City. Now we feel like we're getting the rematch with Kansas City, we've made the adjustments. Ravens team in the second half was clearly, if you want to go on paper, might have been the best team in the AFC. And they've got, again, going back to the word we used 10 minutes ago, momentum. Yeah, I got it.
Right. So that's all you're going to hear about after that game. So now on the flip side, if Lamar Jackson has the great game, he goes crazy, all of that. Now you're going to hear, Todd Monken's offensive game plan works great. And Lamar Jackson, passed great. He ran this and he did this. So it's more about him. So with Derrick Henry, it's going to be only Derrick Henry because this guy carried the ball 30-something times, ran over the Bills defense, all this kind of stuff.
But I agree with you that in the conditions like they were, where you just couldn't see, it was dark, pitch dark, and in the Philadelphia game, all right, it was in the afternoon. You had some light for the first half of the game. Yeah, I would just, to use, what was the old Jets line, ground and pound all those years ago? I mean, you'd ground and pound it, but they didn't do it.
I mean, if you look back at last year, though, when we're in the AFC Championship game, the narrative was still the same of Todd and the offense just abandoning the run. And like I said, I've said it a million times, Gus Edwards is no Derrick Henry, but he was our lead touchdown scorer on the team last year. When you're in the goal line position and your player is contributing that many touchdowns a game, give him the ball. Don't abandon your identity. Don't abandon what works. And it's like, you see players panic on the field. Well, I guess, in this situation, Monken just has a total panic moment and just calls whatever on the fly, hoping that Lamar can get it done because Lamar is who he is. But it's like, dude, you got to remember what got you here. You can't. Forget
like
that.
Anything else, when you go back to when you don't stay true to what got you to the dance, that's what happens. Let me get to a few comments. I know what Anthony's referring to. He's referring to something in the IMF, which I'll leave out for people to figure out on their own. But he won $20. Yep, I did hear about that. Congratulations, Anthony. Hopefully,
I don't know why you're thanking me. I don't play for the Ravens.
But I'm sure $20 will go far. Thank you, Zilla. Let me get to Angela because Angela's got a bunch of comments. Angela, first of all, liked the analysis. I'm going to put that up on X, and she really wants to get to it, so I'm going to do it because she keeps sharing the link on X, and I got a lot of people on X. She says that I'm going to say Commanders versus Bills. She wants me to say Redskins versus Bills, but they haven't been the Redskins in 5 years. But what would you all think about that? Although there's one team we haven't spoke about yet, which I know most people would prefer us not to talk about in the Kansas City Chiefs. But, I mean, what would everybody think about that? The Commanders and the Bills. The Commanders and the Bills. I think she wants me to say the Redskins, but it's the Commanders and the Bills. If that were to happen, what would you guys think? I know one guy and Chris would hate to see that happen, but what about the rest of you?
But I would like to see the Bills win if that happens. I'd love to see them win a Super Bowl.
Me too. But Josh Allen's got to win a Super Bowl eventually. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I don't think it's going to be that. I still think the Eagles are going to win, but you never know. Next week you may be saying, "See, you were wrong." So we'll see.
Well, you said something interesting on Josh Allen. And, when it comes to Buffalo, he's been knocking on the door. This is the Bills' second trip to the AFC Championship game in the last 5 years. And sure, he's been a great quarterback now for the better part of more than half a decade. But, I mean, how many times do you keep knocking on the door and it's just you never get there? I know Lamar Jackson's situation, we kind of spoke about that a little bit.
Yeah.
He's won the multiple MVPs, but Josh Allen, I mean, how many times can you knock at the door and not get there? Phillip Rivers comes to mind. Certainly Chris brought up in the beginning of the show, John Elway and Dan Marino will come to mind. Dan Marino never got there after this first year in the league as a starter. John Elway finally wins the Super Bowl late in his career, but there comes a point where you just keep knocking on the door and you never get there. So is this maybe Josh Allen's moment, or he's got more time?
I was going to say, I think I said last week, I mean, is this is this the game where Josh Allen finally starts getting the Lamar Jackson treatment? Like, if he loses, is the narrative once again, it was just Mahomes, he just can't get past Mahomes? Or is it, hey, you've been here just as many times as relevant as Lamar Jackson, and you can't get it done either?
It's got to be that eventually. I mean, it has to be. You can't keep using that stupid excuse. The Chiefs are in their head, and you just it's gotta. You're right. You're right.
And you know what? They do really well against them in the regular season. They just haven't beaten them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's where it counts most. And I think again with Josh Allen, and not to throw the Phillip Rivers comparison out there again, but Phillip Rivers, I mean, statistically might have been, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He was right there in that era with those likes of Roethlisberger and certainly Tom Brady and Peyton Manning when he was in the AFC all those years. But he didn't win the big one. He kept coming up short. A couple of times he got to a championship game and never quite got there. And you have to wonder, if Josh Allen doesn't win it this year, how many more cracks do you get at it? Your second title game in 5 years. I mean, I know he's still in the prime of his career, but you just never know out there. And I mean, and Joe Dell wants to say that Rob Maraska originally rooted for what again? The Staten Island Stapletons? What exactly is the Staten Island Stapletons? Now, Joey Bostrom.
How do you know about that?
Well, he's, I guess, an historian, but Joey Bostrom, who lives in Stapleton, he would know a little bit about that, I think. But I don't even know what is the Staten Island Stapletons? What is that? Was that an NFL team in Staten Island that was like 100 years ago? Is that what he's trying to tell us? I mean, I'm sure that they played somewhere, but that's not now. But let's talk about then the Kansas City Chiefs, because I know Angela's got another question on that. So these Kansas City Chiefs, they win a game, pretty much a game that they've won the entire year. They play Houston. It's not a great performance. They didn't really do anything spectacular. Kelsey probably had his best game of the year, though. Mahomes certainly got a couple of calls that I think Angela was yelling about on X. She wanted to talk about that. I know she brought it up to me.
Understandable, but yeah, they definitely went their way without a
doubt. Calls. It reminded me of Steph Curry, the NFL version of Steph Curry with some of those flops. I know Angela. She spoke with me after the game. Like, you got to bring it up. I'm like, I'm going to bring it up. Don't worry. I'm going to bring it up. But
Mahomes is basically Tom Brady now.
Yep.
I agree. Yep. Tom Brady got all those calls. He got the benefit of the doubt. And Mahomes, I'm not saying anybody deserves it, but if anybody does, it should be Mahomes. Just look at what this guy's done in the first 7 years.
There was the one call was literally like they just like tapped him. I mean,
But it is what it is, and he's going to get those calls. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt. Like the one where they said the two guys hit Mahomes in the head, right, in the helmet, and they basically hit themselves.
They hit each other. Yeah.
Right. The referee, I mean, I'm not making excuses for the guy, but he probably heard two helmets hitting, and he probably figured, all right, these idiots couldn't have hit themselves, so they had one of them had to hit Mahomes, right?
Well, the only problem that I have with that, Chris, is on either side of the field, there's these giant screens. I don't know, man.
Troy Aikman was talking about it during the game, and he said that they should go back and change some of those rules in the offseason when the rules committee meets. That was his point. And you know what? And to his credit, whether you agreed or not, Troy Aikman took a very strong, and he's a quarterback. So for him to take that strong of a position, that shows you that maybe that really shouldn't have been called, and especially with a game with that much magnitude, because I mean, Houston certainly, they had some missed field goals. I mean, they had some opportunities there, but game could change drastically if look at those drives. I don't think Kansas City would have got the points they would have got if it wasn't for those calls.
I'm all for player safety, but I have been very vocal before in saying that the NFL has gotten way too soft. Way too soft.
I agree with you.
Especially towards the quarterbacks, right? Because the quarterbacks are the stars of the league. It's as simple as that. The NFL does not want to see Mahomes get hurt. They don't want to see Lamar Jackson get hurt. They don't want to see, any of the top guys, Joe Burrow, any of these guys.
But at the cost of a game's outcome being determined. I mean, that game, I'm not saying Houston would have definitely won, but Kansas City went, in the first half, those drives certainly helped them in the lead. And
they're always going to protect the quarterback, no matter what. They're the guys that we get. Like we turn the TV on, we want to see Mahomes against Josh Allen. We don't want to see Carson Wentz, the backup to Mahomes, play against whoever the backup is to Josh Allen. Right?
Yeah.
We don't want to see that.
Right.
Angela's not happy. She said she's very upset. I'm going to put her comments. I'm going to read them off. She said that you, Chris, are giving too much credit to the reps. She's not happy. Hopefully she won't be as. Hopefully she won't turn on you like. Hopefully she won't turn on you like her councilwoman Ina Vernikoff. We're not going to go there, but she said at the cost of the game, no way. At the cost of the game, which I think that's kind of my point in a way. Not as maybe boastful.
I have gone on record to say multiple times. The Patriots finally got investigated after a while.
I like 15
after everybody made a big enough of a stink, right? People are constantly blaming the Chiefs for cheating, for ref involvement, for this and that and this and that. When do we,
Wait. Are you saying that the Chiefs have a hand in this?
You can't. I mean, all right. Let's move on here. A couple comments.
The NFL's doing this. They're doing it on their own. I agree, but there's no way the Chiefs are like, "Hey, you got to give us a call." Give them.
Demo says that he wants to have the clothesline tackle back. The NFL's way too wimpy.
No, but what they should do, and we just said it, they should have a chance to look at that play again, like on that helmet-to-helmet hit. If they replayed it, they would have seen. Oh shoot! You know what? Those guys hit each other. They didn't hit Mahomes in the head, so they shouldn't get it, right?
But I do think that there's a point to be made. We're here on Sportswire Radio. If you're here, you want to hit the like button on the show. Appreciate that very much. Share it. We have a lot of people on X. Thank you for that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm alongside Rob Maraska, TBK, and Chris Pizai. But I think there is a point to be made that I'm not saying Houston would have won, but those calls did, in a way, could have played a hand in the outcome. I don't know what to do about it other than when this offseason is at about a month from now, but whatever it is, that maybe a rules committee would look at it. But I mean, there are people that do feel like that the Chiefs got calls that almost anybody else wouldn't have got. Go ahead.
At the very least, like you just said, rules committee, end of the season, you get together, you look at some of those calls, you make decisions based on that. Something must be done.
Right.
Okay. And I would never like to implicate a team, unless it's obvious, but at this point, man, it's like I said, it's getting hard to ignore.
I mean, I did think it years ago in the NBA with what was the Lakers when they won the 3 championships. It was the Lakers and Kings series. I always thought that was like where I kind of think the NBA for me, and I still followed it, but it was like that was the series for me in the 2002 Western Conference Finals where the Lakers got like every single call, and it was like, yeah, okay, now this NBA is rigged. Then it was the Bulls. As a kid, Michael Jordan was always going to the line with 2 minutes left, and people are starting to they felt that way with Brady, and I think with Mahomes, they're feeling that way, and it's also because of somebody else who's outside of the league that's become such a topic here, which, people feel that's a part of it too, with that one person that everybody in the world, they show her, and, and they see Caitlin Clark now, and they see the brother, and I think that's also a part of it too, that it's turned into what people feel like that there is an angst toward that. I think that's also,
I'll be honest. I think on the helmet-to-helmet hit, I think any quarterback would have probably got that call because the ref thought that these guys, one of them hit, the quarterback in the helmet, right? Yeah. So I think any quarterback would have got that. The other one, the late hit, whatever it was, I think it was a late hit against him. That was really bad, without a doubt. And that's where I think if you're able to replay those, right? If the head coach is like, all right, wait a minute, There's no way that should be a call, right? And you replay that, or the helmet-to-helmet one, they could go back and say, all right, you know what? There's no way, that was a helmet-to-helmet or a late hit. So I think there's got to be something done in that sense. There's got to be a call, a replay that you'll be able to replay at least one of them. Maybe the helmet-to-helmet you could throw the flag on, but the late hit, I don't know if they're going to ever do a replay on that, because that's more of like a judgment call. So it's going to be hard to say, because one guy, like we're saying, there's no way that's a late hit, but maybe to the ref, it seems like a late hit. I don't know. It's a gray area, I think, some of those.
All right, let me get to some comments. Angela said she loves you, Chris, no matter what, if she agrees or not. So that's good. We don't want to have, if Angela knows she's happy about that, she loves Chris regardless, which is great. We love Angela. Thank you for all you do for us, Angela, and all for you do in the people in Brooklyn. We appreciate that. We love our people in Brooklyn who support us and got us to the 1,000 subs. Also, Joey Bostrom is here, wants to say good evening, and fellow Stapleton, Joey Bostrom, he says that he wants to see Washington and Buffalo. He wants to see it. So,
okay.
Well, we'll have to find out. But the Kansas City Chiefs are the other part of it, and they're the home team, and they have a chance to make history. The first team to win 3 Super Bowls. This would be their 5th Super Bowl appearance, right, in the last 6 years. They lost 1 against Tampa in the COVID year, and they won 3. They went back-to-back. They beat San Francisco in 19. So this would be their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years. And, I mean, that's what they're chasing. And I mean, what do you guys think of that? I mean, it's kind of been the inevitable. But the Chiefs, they win every game for the most part the same way. They beat Houston kind of the way they did everybody else. And now they play Buffalo. And what happens?
Everybody wants to see Buffalo win, except for people in Kansas City.
Well, everybody wanted to see Baltimore beat Kansas City last year because people are tired. I think there is a tiredness like New England. I think Chris made the point. You're starting to see that tiredness. And I think it's also, again, I don't want to blame Taylor Swift for it, but people see like Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark. They see, every 2 seconds. And I think that's a part of it, And I think that's why most people outside of Chiefs Kingdom would like to see that. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they're the ones who get to play, not the fans, not the people that are on social media. And they're the home team. And can the Buffalo Bills go into Kansas City and win their first AFC championship in over 30 years?
You know what? I'm not going to be the one to bet against Kansas City. I just think they're just unreal. They're just unbelievable. They're just like listen, how many years did we go into a New England Colts game or New England Charger game for the championship, and we're like, you know what?
New England a couple times. We had New England
every year. It was like, you know what? This might be the year that the Patriots don't win it, right? This is the year they don't make it to the Super Bowl, and then they win, and then they get to the Super Bowl, and then they win that, right? And they crush our dreams here. So I'm not going to bet. I'm hoping Buffalo wins. I would love to see Buffalo make it. Trust me, I'm rooting for them. But I just have this feeling Kansas City's going to pull it out, like a close game. They're going to get a call, like we're talking about. They're going to get, some kind of penalty. They're going to get something, go their way, and what's his name is going to be out. Kick a field goal. They're going to win it. 2017. Last second, overtime, something.
Yeah, well, the fourth quarter, of course, right?
Yeah.
Always.
And we're going to be like, and we're going to have the same conversation that we're having now.
Yeah.
But you know what? Kansas City, they've been here. They win time and time again. And I mean, it's hard to bet against them.
They have a psychological advantage over every team, right? Because Buffalo goes in there. Yeah, they're confident. Yeah, they got momentum going in. Yeah, we just beat Baltimore.
But does Buffalo have momentum? I think do they have momentum? They didn't really beat Baltimore.
No, I think they do. I think any team has momentum going in. But
it wasn't convincing. I mean, if you think about it, all right, Buffalo beats Denver. Big deal. I mean, Denver beats Kansas City, who didn't even play to make the playoffs, and then they beat Baltimore in a game.
With confidence. I'll say it that way. They're coming.
All right, I'll give you the confidence part. I'll give you the confidence.
The best offenses in the league. The guy's going to probably get his third MVP. We just shut him down, right? So we're coming in. all right, now we're going to beat Kansas City. Like now they got that in their head. But you know what? At halftime or in late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and it's a close game, you don't think in the back of their mind they're saying, "Oh man, this is exactly where Kansas City wants us." Like they might be looking like, "Oh yeah, we're good," but in the back of their mind they're saying, "Shoot, Mahomes is going to make some great play. They're going to get some stupid call, and they're going to get, like it's going to go their way." Like you have that mentality, and that's what Kansas City just kind of says, "Hey, we're just going to play our game, just play."
And they're playing for history. I want to get to our guest that was on here to open up the evening, and what an honor it was to have Skrilla in a few minutes. We'll get his comment in here, but what an honor it was to have him here to open the night here, and a man that has had some big matches and big wins. He knows a thing or two about that in the wrestling world, defeating Colby Carino and James Storm. But Kansas City's playing for history, the first team to win 3 straight Super Bowls. And even in sports, 3 straight championships, right? I spoke about it in the NBA. The Lakers won 3 straight championships. They're the last team to win three straight championships of any sort, right, in the major sports. And that's a hard thing to do. It's just a hard thing. And the Chiefs, they're looking for history, and they're playing for something that's bigger than anybody.
Absolutely. And if they do that's pretty amazing, man.
It's incentive right there, extra incentive, right?
It's in this era, right? This era of the NFL where it's the salary cap era. Your 32 teams, expanded playoff. I mean, more teams make the playoffs, and you have an extra game. It's a longer season. And the fact that the Chiefs, whether you like them or not, to be objective in it, and I'll get to some more comments, but for the Chiefs to be able to do that, that's an impressive testament. And, I mean, look at the 49ers, right? The 49ers were a team that went to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years prior, right? They go to 3 championship games. And this year, they tanked. They just didn't have the year because we talked about it. It's very hard to keep coming back. And the 49ers just, unfortunately, they couldn't come back. It wasn't their time. But the Chiefs, every year, doesn't matter. Double-digit wins, championship game appearances, Super Bowls. And for them to have 5 Super Bowls in 6 years to have appeared and to potentially won their 4th. I mean, that's, again, I spoke about it. The Lakers are the last team to win 3 straight championships. That was, 2000, 2001, 2002. Nobody's done that since. That's a pretty.
The last team in NFL history to win 3 straight is Green Bay. They won the last non-Super Bowl championship and then the first 2 Super Bowls.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's
a technical 3, but it's not. It's not 3 straight Super Bowls.
You're talking about. I mean, Rob was there. He watched it. I mean,
yeah, Rob knows. Rob was at each game.
Probably was.
That's all right in Green Bay.
Probably was.
Of course.
But let me get to Skrilla. Skrilla did say, by the way, and Skrilla knows. Skrilla definitely knows, of course, the legendary Skrilla. He is great. He said that he likes to see the Commanders and the Chiefs. I haven't heard that tonight. I've heard everybody wants Buffalo and Washington, but Kansas City and Washington. That's
the battle of the Indians. If it was the
well, no more. Well, Commanders aren't Indians anymore. I mean, the Redskins, that would have been certainly a matchup, but it's not. But I mean, the Commanders and the Chiefs, and that could very well be possible. There's always somebody though in these championship games that wins on the road. I mean, this year, if you look at these matchups so far, right, with teams at home, the home field advantage has probably been a little bit more this year than in prior years. I mean, Detroit lost and Tampa lost. I think Tampa losing to Washington, I think most people would have said that was a coin toss. Detroit was a mild upset, but that's really it. I mean, otherwise, you would have to think of these 2 matchups this weekend that somebody would have to lose. That would just at home, right? Somebody would.
Yeah. I mean, I think for that game, if we got Commanders Chiefs, and by some miracle, Jaden Daniels pulls off the win in that game, get out while the getting's good, kid. Take the huge payout because you're probably going to be Super Bowl MVP, league MVP, Super Bowl champion, and just retire right there. Because holy crap, like that, and
it doesn't get much better, right?
For real, to take down Mahomes, and that would be, oh man,
and it would be the most it would be amazing. One of the biggest upsets, and just them getting to the Super Bowl is huge, and then to win against Mahomes, stopping him from winning 3 straight. That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Oh man.
Well, if Washington got that far and won the Super Bowl, we would be talking about, I mean, that would be, again, we've got a ways to go for that. You got to play on Sunday.
I don't know if we could look. What was Washington's Super Bowl odds before the season started? I wonder if we could get those.
I could pull it. I mean, I could pull it up on my phone and, tell you the odds. But the odds, I'm sure, were, I'm going to say 99 to 1.
Like $100 bet on these guys.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up for you. And Joe Dell's talking about the Jets won the first Super Bowl. Okay, they won the first Super Bowl. But
no, they won the third.
No, they didn't. What are you talking? The Jets
won
won.
And technically, the Jets won the Super Bowl because retroactively they called the 2 Green Bay wins Super Bowls.
He's just getting to semantics now, man. It's
well, let me put up
for all 3 of them. All right, so he knows.
That's right.
Well, Rob was there. He was there, right?
But I remember the Jets winning.
Rob.
I remember Namath winning.
So Washington's odds were plus 15,000. It was plus 15,000. So if you looked at the Super Bowl odds to win the Super Bowl this year, they had New England had the worst. New England was 30,000. The Giants were 20. Denver, Washington, and the Raiders were at 15,000. Carolina was at 25,000. Their over/under record, their projection was 6.5. So their over/under win-loss wise was 6.5 this year.
Wow,
6.5. They wound up winning nearly double that. They won 12. So that's, and then the other odds here. Here we go. I'm going to pull it up here. What were the odds to go into it? Yeah. So the teams, the Commanders, where were they at the beginning of the season? 2,500 was the well, that's the playoff odds. So they're still at the longest odds. But let's see the Super Bowl odds from the very beginning. And I want to say hello to Mr. Darkron. Mr. Darkron's in the house. And the Washington Commanders, I got 15,000. That's what their odds were. So they were only.
I just thought about it too. But not only would he have taken down Mahomes, but he would have also won a ring before Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady did the same thing, right? Second year in the league, first year as a starter, comes in, Bledsoe gets hurt right early in the year. They go on an amazing run. New England goes into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh were the favorite team that year, and they win the AFC Championship. They play the Rams. Rams were the greatest show on turf. We're playing for 2 Super Bowl wins in 3 years, supposed to be a layup. Patriots win it in overtime, and Brady goes on this run. I mean, Washington still got some ways to go. They got some games to win, but I mean, you're playing for a lot there. And also here, Darkron would like to say that he's picking the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going for the Eagles and Chiefs, and that's a rematch from a couple of years ago. That's another thing we haven't talked about. The Eagles and Chiefs is a rematch of a few years ago.
Other than an Eagle fan, maybe, but
but it's still there. I mean, it
is.
It's a rematch. I mean, it was a couple years ago, and the Eagles. That was a game they'd like to have back. Yeah. Eagles Chiefs. It's there. It's there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's there. I mean, we can sit all night and talk about what we want to see. We have no control. And these games here recently have showed us that. Teams that were projected to go all the way are sitting on their damn couches right now. And teams that you never would have thought would have been in this position in a million years are there. It's Insane.
I think you know what the good thing is. No matter who wins, we're going to get a good matchup in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care who.
Yeah, I think if you look at let's go with it here. The storylines: Washington, right? Speaking about this Cinderella story, Buffalo, right? For everybody there, technically New York's team, right? Buffalo hasn't been here. You've got Philadelphia, unfinished business, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and you got Kansas City. So this year you got 4 great storylines. You know, not every year you get 4 great storylines. There's all great storylines there. Joe Dell, I don't know why the 86 Mets are involved in this. I don't know what they could have done, but they didn't win 3 in a row. They won 1 World Series. They lost in 1988 in the National League Championship Series. I'm not sure what the New York Mets have to do with this.
Why they didn't go 3 straight? So
what's that?
I said there's a whole documentary on, right? Why
I don't even know. They didn't even get to the World Series again. I mean, we're talking teams that got to the championship. I mean, listen, the Mets were great. I'm a Mets fan, but they're not irrelevant at all in this discussion. But look, I mean, you know, these are matchups that are really exciting matchups. I think Kansas City's 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is 48.5. I would kind of think what the weather's going to be cold. Maybe it's an under there. You think that'll be a higher scoring matchup?
I think I could see the Chiefs. Well, you know what? When they play each other, the Chiefs and the Bills, it does
high
go.
scoring.
Yeah, it is high.
It's colder weather.
Yeah.
Cold, I don't know. January championship game.
Yeah, it should be about what 30, 40 degrees there. I'm just guessing. I don't think there's.
I'll give you the weather right now. I'll tell you the weather. Kansas City weather.
Be like 30-ish, right? I don't know.
Well, let's hope for their sake. I got Sunday 33. 33.
All
so
right.
22,
right.
33.
Weather is not going to play a part. You know, just like in the Philly game, it's just should be like you said it earlier. Compared to what it's been, it's going to feel like a fall day. You know, compared to what it's been.
Yeah, right.
Philadelphia. Let me give you the Philadelphia weather. 39. 39.
Yeah, so that's not bad. That won't affect either team
compared to last weekend.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, last weekend. Let me get to Mr. Darkon. Yes, Zilla, she's saying hello to Anthony Steele. Yes, we appreciate you saying hello to him. I'm a Cowboys fan, unfortunately, so it hurts to cheer for the Birds. Ooh. But we have an NFC championship, and it's half of the NFC East. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, and 1/4 of that NFC East is brutal in the New York Giants. And
but still,
I'm not sure how Donald Trump is Washington. I don't know where the Donald Trump Washington reference is.
Is that why?
All right, I guess. All right. Taylor Swift and Donald Trump. Okay. All right. I guess. I mean, I don't really know how it kind of relevant in this case.
If Washington was Trump, then they'd be changed back to the Redskins.
They're the command, but they're the Commanders, though. That's been a year. No, they'd be the Washington football.
His own name on it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? He tried and he didn't work in the NFL. But I'm going to move away from that because I don't know how it's relevant. But yeah, weather conditions are not going to be a factor. We'll see. Obviously, these games will be really good matchups. Obviously, before we get to closing thoughts, I know because Rob and Chris interviewed Ed Lynch, former New York Mets and Chicago Cubs pitcher, and technically won a World Series, pitched like one game, 1 inning for the New York Mets in '86. But 3 Hall of Famers were no surprises, right? And Wagner gets in, Sabathia, and then who's the one guy that voted against Ichiro, right? And otherwise,
yeah, there's always an idiot. There's always one.
Wow.
You know what? It was funny. You could look at it both ways, right? You could look at it a guy who says, you know what? I don't think anybody should be unanimous, you know, and didn't vote for him. And also a guy that wants to protect Mariano as being the only unanimous player.
That's true, too. Yes,
right?
You're right.
But now look at the stuff. I mean, you've seen the stuff that came out about Rivera. Ooh.
Yes, I read about that. Wow.
I'm praying it's not true, but man, if it is true,
that's not good, but
that's a gut punch, man. Trust me, I love Rivera. There's not a Yankee fan out there that doesn't like Rivera, that doesn't love that guy.
Of course.
Probably the most important player on that team during that era, you know. And to hear this stuff, man, it's a gut punch. Trust me, it's hard to read that story. I'm just praying that you know, it's not true.
I'm praying for the people that, you know, how about praying for people involved in that, you know, really horrific story there. But yeah, Ichiro does get in, obviously, in the one person. Angela, who's listening to this, will probably chuckle when I make the comparison. It's like sometimes in local politics and Angela will definitely know what I'm about to say, when sometimes we have people that run in the local elections and nobody runs against them, you do a protest vote, like you write somebody in. Angela's gotten votes in her area, so she knows what I'm talking about. So in this case, maybe this writer just wanted to protest. I don't know. It's a protest vote. He knows Ichiro's getting in. It's stupid. I agree. This is not politics. I mean,
I'm hoping though that this opens up next year, because next year's class is really weak. You know, so I think it's going to be Beltran and
me too.
I think Beltran is only 20 votes away. I mean, he's getting it's stupid.
And maybe Utley. You might see Utley get in there too, man. Utley's, I know
not next year. Not next. No. But I don't think he gets in next year. He's still a little behind.
I think it's Beltran and Andrew Jones. Definitely next year.
Jones has got 2 more years. 2 more years on the ballot. He's at 66.
Yeah, he should.
I think Beltran gets in, but I'm going to say Jones has to wait the last year on the ballot.
I don't know. Next, like Chris said, it's weak next.
But they made Wagner wait. They made Wagner wait till the last year on the ballot, and Wagner. Look at his case. Yeah. They made him wait. They may just make him. I mean, it's goofy. I mean, I don't understand these writers. You're going to vote him in.
Me either.
But Jones is right. Jones is. I think will get in, but I think Beltran definitely gets in. And
yeah, I think so too.
And that's. But yeah, Utley might get in. He might get in. Ed Lynch, definitely kicked some butt. He did. He definitely had some interesting stories. You can check that out here on sportswireradio.org via the Listen Live button. Angela wanted to thank us for the show. Appreciate that very much. She enjoyed the show. I think that a lot of people did appreciate that very much.
Support, Angela.
Yes, Angela was tuning for the whole one. I sent her the link and she listened. So she was great. She listened to it. She was actually one of the few people that Skrilla was not interesting to her. She wants the football talk. And thank you, Maria. Maria enjoyed the show, Dynamite show. Thank you for that. Joey Bostrom said good evening, gentlemen, a while ago. I missed him on that. So anything else you guys want to talk about? Any other thoughts before I get to closing thoughts? Anything else you want to throw out there before we sign off until next week?
I wanted to say one thing. We didn't talk about the passing of Mr. Baseball.
Bob Uecker, actor Bob Uecker. Yep, right. What was he? Mr. Belvedere? Was he Mr. Belvedere?
Well, yeah, but also he was great in Major League. I mean,
yeah.
As Harry, as Doyle,
just a bit outside. Just a bit outside. Yep.
Yeah. So he was play-by-play for Milwaukee for over 50 years. I mean, think about that. I mean,
he was still on the call this year, 90. Still calling.
Yeah, his last game was the Alonso home run.
Well,
that was
Rob, really. You might have contributed to Uecker's death.
But I just thought we'd have to mention it. Died age 90, and Johnny Carson dubbed him Mr. Baseball, and he was a fun guy who made fun of himself. And
I think that self-deprecation is what endears you to people. And here was a guy that had a nondescript career, a 200 lifetime hitter, but for wrestling fans, was a part of WrestleMania. He was a part of WrestleMania 4. Yep. Was it 3 and 4? He was a part of, I think, right? 3 and 4.
The early ones, yeah.
Yeah, WrestleMania. I know he was definitely part of the one in Atlantic City. Maybe he was a part of WrestleMania 3. Had the famous thing where Andre the Giant was choking him, and he had a very eclectic life. I mean, he was an announcer, but he was known. Like I said, Mr. Belvedere, right? Major League.
Is he in the Hall of Fame? The WWE Hall of
Fame? Yes. He's in the WWE.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame as a broadcaster, of course.
Well, his career as a broadcaster was almost 6
to be in both Hall of Fames.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Pete Rose should be in both, but he's actually in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, he should. But I just wanted to mention that.
That's a good point. And Joe Dell says that Rob Maraska's paperwork was declassified that your flies we're not going to go there. I don't know how this is before we know it is the witching hour. I know the witching hour is coming on Sportswire,
the
but
truth is out.
See, now everybody knows why the ball went through
Now we know.
Rucker's leg.
well, I think he's referring to what you guys talked with Ed Lynch on it, but Ed Lynch, you guys were talking about it, and Ed Lynch kind of still thought the Mets were going to win the game anyway. He basically said in the interview, he basically thought it was just going to be.
Well, at first he didn't. He said, when I asked him, he said, I said, well, you were watching it. What did you think? And he said, I thought it was over. So he thought at first it was over. But, I just want to thank him. He was really a good and fun interview. He was. And we're going to have
although
him
it's funny
again.
for those that don't know that he messaged me about the interview. Like, no, I do wrestling, really. I don't think for my audience they want wrestling, but they're like, you guys could do it, because I don't really,
He was a lot of fun. Me and Chris had a good time, and we'll have him back on. So
yeah, he said he's going to spring training in Arizona, and he was open to it. He was recording another podcast with his show, and I see a lot of ex-Major League Baseball players. I see Rob Deere is doing one now. I see Greg Vaughn's doing one. So everybody's going into it. Angela did want to also say she specifically thanks the three of you guys, Chris, TBK, and Rob. She enjoyed the show. Is there anything else you guys want to say before I give everybody closing thoughts? Anything else you guys want to get off your chest, or we're good? All right. So let's go to closing thoughts. I'm going to go with you first, TBK. I'm going to pass the baton to you. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Take it away.
Great show as always, guys. Thanks for having me. I guess I would be remiss not to, give a final farewell to Mr. Anthony Santander. Never want to see a vet, a locker room leader go to a division rival, but he signed a pretty lucrative contract for the next 5 years with the Blue Jays. As much as I hate to see him go, I wish him nothing but the best. He was a great player for this organization. Like I said, breaks my heart for him because he did express desire to stay here and retire an Oriole, but it just wasn't in the cards. That out of the way. I mean, I guess my thoughts would be who becomes the new locker room leader for the Orioles at this point, because it's still a pretty young team. I think maybe the baton goes to Mullins or possibly Rutschman. So I'm curious who's going to be the guy now. So we'll wait and see on that. I guess I'll hold off until for wrestling until Randy comes back. Is Randy coming back?
Randy. So we're probably doing another bridge show similar to this one next week, but the following. Okay. I think Randy. I think he's back I think he's not. I don't know if he's back next week, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing probably a similar show to this one, but he'll be back for sure the following week. We'll definitely do a regular show the week after next one. So if you want to say something, you're welcome to. Go ahead.
Really quick then. The only thing I'm most excited about coming up here is Malachi Black possibly coming back. The rumors are is that they're trying to get him in before the Rumble. I mean, the Rumble is a couple days away now, so it'd be a squeeze, but maybe they could make it happen. The only other thing I would say about wrestling, just real quick, would be about the Wyatt Six. I remember saying a long time ago, my biggest concern with them was them getting, built up, all the hype, once all the promos and vignettes weared off and we finally got them in the ring, it felt like we had that Bray Wyatt-esque just major drop off. We found out tonight why they got moved to SmackDown, because they also moved The Miz to SmackDown. So obviously they're not done with that whole storyline, at least as far as they are concerned. I feel like the some of the booking here lately has been a little bit goofy, but like I said, I'll hold off on that until Randy comes back. Guys, good to see you as always. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and we appreciate that. Yes, Randy will be back. I know I'm probably doing another show similar to this one, like tonight. So, but definitely in 2 weeks,
Okay.
we'll definitely get into a little bit of that. So I'm going to go next with Rob Morosk. I'm going to pass the baton to you, Rob. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? I think Angela wants me to put up Twitter handles or X handles, so I'm going to put yours up, and I'll pass the baton off to you, Rob. And anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and fire away.
Real quick, Pete Alonso. I heard, everybody heard he's in talks with the Blue Jays. If that happens, it happens.
Blue Jays get their chips, right? Santander and Alonso, and they're an interesting team.
Whatever happens right now. I mean, I have Anthony Savino constantly texting me, going crazy about the Mets not making any really big moves after Soto. And you know what? I'm just going to wait and see what happens. We're not even in spring training yet. So, I'm not going to go
get close. And boy, I hope it gets to spring training. It's getting too cold. I want it give me some warm weather already.
And I just once again want to thank Ed Lynch. We had a lot of fun. And I want to show this hoodie. I want to thank Alyssa O'Toole, and I want to thank Emily Andrew for this really cool NYMLB Talk hoodie that they got.
Let me see if I could solo you with it. Nope, it's not going to work. Let me see.
All right. Well,
yeah, no, it's not going to work. But we see it. New York MLB Talk.
Yeah, it's
I got
pretty
it.
Cool. I just wanted to thank them. I thought it was really
very nice, very well done. And James Taylor is catching a show. He probably doesn't realize we're talking football, but James is here, and he just did Anthony Aries' podcast. I just saw. So Anthony's he was on, and he'll be back here very soon. So thank you, James, for that.
And one more thing, I mean, great show, guys. Like you said, all these ex-major leaguers are having podcasts now. So we're gonna work on getting some of them to come on our show.
Yeah, Rob Gear is one. I just saw he's doing one. Who played for
there's
the
a bunch of them. Hey, remember who you actually started?
Yes,
doing a podcast, right?
Jeff Fry, yes, Jeff Fry, who played for the Red Sox and the Blue Jays and
the Royals.
No, the Rangers he played for.
Oh, the Rangers. I mean the Rangers. Yeah, sorry.
Jeff Fry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff Fry. Yeah.
We in the beginning Tom interviewed him a bunch of times. So
he came on about 6 or 7 times. Then he became kind of like almost like what James Taylor is on TikTok. He became like on that for X. He would put these videos out, Jeff Fry. And he basically almost like he would berate like hitting instructors and like coaches in baseball. He was like the first one to do that. He went viral. He went from when I met him, he had like 10 followers to he had 10,000. He literally became and then he was everywhere. He was he caught fires, but it was, we had him on, but I'm happy where I ended up, and I'm sure he's happy where he ended up. And we're here with 1,400 subscribers almost, and Facebook almost 3,000, and Instagram almost 2,000. And we had 5 pro wrestlers in 2 weeks. So 2 of them were Savio Vega and Rhino, and in between that, Skrilla the Great. We had James Fury, who was an MLW extra, and Stud Bronson, who's wrestling Savio Vega tomorrow. So I'm happy where I ended up, and I'm sure that Mr. Fry is happy where he ended up. And he's also an agent. He's an agent for Jonah Heim and a few other players. So thank you, Rob, for that. We look forward to seeing all that. Chris, I'm going to give you the floor tonight for some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? I'm also going to put up your X, and then I'm going to put up the links for the podcast as well. So I'll pass the baton to you, and fire away.
Tom, thank you. Guys, great show as always. Great chatting. I'm looking forward to the games on Sunday, obviously. Both should be really good. And I'll be looking forward to talking to Rob about catching up on all the moves that are going to be coming here with baseball. We should be hearing something soon about Bregman, Alonso. I don't like the Alonso going to Toronto. To me, it's not a good fit, but we'll see how that ends up going. Hopefully he lands somewhere. I feel bad for the guy, but we'll see where he ends up.
Went to the Braves, right? Braves made a move finally. Got that too.
Yeah, Profar. That was a nice move for the Braves. I like that. And we'll see what happens with the rest of the league. And in football, got good news for the Jets. They got Aaron Glenn. They named him head coach. So I'm looking forward to who they get as GM, and we can get the ball rolling here on rebuilding this team slowly, and we'll see what happens. So
awesome. And if you're out there, you want to follow, if you're Angela who loves her football talk, Chris has got the Liftoff Jets. They have a podcast which we're going to play via the Listen Live button here on sportswireradio.org. Going to play that here later this weekend, and also the New York MLB talk. And I do want to thank Ernest Dove, who just shared our link on X also. So throw in another 20 plus different people out there that are watching us right now. I really appreciate that very much. And I also want to thank one more time everybody for their support. I did want to put the pictures up one more time in case you forgot. Yes, I did speak to this guy, Rhino. He did like my introduction. Definitely, it was a great honor to have you. He liked it, and he really did like it. He liked it off the air, and he said he wanted to hear more of it. And I had Savio Vega was here. That was a great honor. Savio Vega loved the intro, and he wrestled Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. I mean, I have a clip here. We had like 1,000 views on Instagram for this one, and this one he talks about Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it was great, really great. Last couple of weeks, I can't thank everybody enough for that. Again, to speak with Savio Vega and Rhino. Rhino, the last proper ECW world champion, and one half of the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Really made his mark most in ECW. TNA, he did win the world title there. And Savio Vega, really Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was his first prominent feud in WWE. And he wrestled The Rock. It was one of The Rock's first matches with Savio Vega. So Savio Vega really liked Sportswire. Unfortunately, the end of the interview cut off because my power went out, and he was so gracious off the air. He was like, "You all right? You alive?" I'm like, "Yeah, just my power went out." But that was nice of Mr. Vega, and he'll be back on Sportswire Radio. But thank you everybody for your support, and we are here on Sportswire Radio. I'll be here coming up for my 6 years in the business, 6-year anniversary today. Joe Starr of NEW, 7:00 Eastern Time. Thomas McEntee at 10:30. So hang out for those shows. Sunday, Anton Nathan, 9:00 Pennsylvania Pro Wrestler. And I was joined here today by Chris Bazaya of the Liftoff Jets and the New York MLB Talk TBK, and Rob Maraska, Contest Man, Grim Reaper of Sportswire Radio of the New York MLB Talk. Also, I want to thank Skrilla the Great. What an honor it was to have Skrilla here, just coming off his big matches with Colby Carino and Lexis King, of course, the NXT Heritage Cup champion. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you so much for your support. Hit the like button, hit the sub button, follow us, and we'll see everybody here probably about the same time next Friday. We'll figure the four of us will be back here about 11 o'clock. Randy may join us. I think Randy might be here, but we'll find out. Stay tuned for more details. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one, Global Radio Station that is